Hi, this is Mehdi,
Hey, this is Fran.
and this is Total Tactics Football. Today we'll be covering PSG versus Red Bull Leipzig. Fran, how do you feel about this game?
Look, it's an interesting tie because no one expected either of these two teams to make it so far. And here we are in the semifinals. We have PSG who just scraped through versus Atalanta in a game where Neymar had a fantastic performance but couldn't find the net. And PSG got the goods through Mbappe's substitution and Choupo-Moting's late goal. And on the other side, we had Red Bull who deservedly went through a kind of masterclass of a performance where you saw Simeone, a well-regarded coach, being beaten by Nagelsmann, who's 33 years old and into his first semi-final in the Champions League.
Oh, it's been great, and they're both of the young managers, the German managers, are going to be looking to get those, historic wins. Fran, how do you think Leipzig is going to set up?
So it's an interesting thing when you look at Leipzig. They kind of alternate between a three at the back or even a 4-2-3-1. It stems down to the fact that they kind of play a asymmetric lineup where you have Angelino who plays, in traditionally what would seem like a left wing back position, but he really much plays like a left winger at most times. And then you have Klosterman, who's much more defensive at the right back position. But I think you'll see the same lineup that was played versus Atletico Madrid. You'll see Upamecano, who is playing alongside Halstenberg, Angelino, and Klosterman as the back. And then you have Campbell and Leimer as your kind of double pivot. And then Sabitzer, Olmo, and Kuku as your kind of three center mids. And Poulsen as a center forward type.
Well, that is interesting. It's definitely a different kind of lineup than PSG's faced at home and abroad. For me, I think they're going to go with their trusted 4-4-2. It sort of turns into a 4-2-2-2. We're going to see the same back line as we saw the one against Atalanta with Kimpembe and Silva, holding down that central center-back positions. We'll see Marquinhos and possibly Gale, who we're not sure if he will start, not because there are injury concerns. If not, Herrera is possibly going to play with him. Ahead of them, we'll have Di Maria, who's coming back from a suspension, and Neymar, who's going to be looking to go at this game as fast as possible. And the front line, they're going to have the star boy, Mbappe and Icardi.
Yeah, so the interesting thing when you actually look at that kind of Paris formation is obviously you mentioned that they play like a 4-4-2 approach. And obviously that's exactly what Atleti play, but, in a much more defensive, rigid structure. And Leipzig did very, very well playing versus them when they operated with three midfielders, having Nkunku, Olmo and Sabitzer being supported by a double pivot really overcrowded Saul and Herrera, and they really, really struggled. Some would say that they missed Partey, but ultimately I think it was, a tactical kind of mastery from Nagelsmann over Simeone's, regular base tactics, and that kind of overcrowding the midfield that gave them a lot of chances and a lot of space to kind of service both Angelino and Klosterman at times. There's a sort of triangle between Klosterman, Leimer, and Sabitzer where they were able to get those crosses because the way Atleti play is very similar to Paris because they have, Carrasco who's driving the ball forwards and Lodi on the overlap. Now, while we won't see Juan Bernat so much on the overlap, we will see Neymar being the aggressor. And I think that does leave a lot of space in the right where you have Sabitzer who's able to create. And, Sabitzer did that actually when almost scored too.
Well, no, definitely. I think PSG is going to be very careful. They can't take this game quite lightly. But I do feel the momentum is on PSG's side. That game against Atalanta didn't have the quality. It was a gritty game. Neymar had an incredible performance, but everything in the final third was just not coming off. And they somehow broke through and they got their win. One can say even Leipzig's on the same kind of momentum. But I do feel the quality up front with the likes of Di Maria, Mbappe, Neymar, they're immense when it comes to ball carrying. I think they're going to be aiming at that right-hand flank as well. For Klosterman, they're going to be trying to look if they can find space. We saw Mbappe and Neymar overlap in that game against Atalanta. They love playing with each other. There's a good understanding. And the pace that we've seen and the trickery of these players, I feel there's going to be a lot of cards. I feel like there's going to be a lot of challenges that they're going to draw in. And in that sense, there is this gap that I think PSG can expose. They do have problems, like you mentioned. PSG in the midfield are very weak when it comes to possession, so they will a little struggle with getting the ball through. But considering the pace and these players having this chemistry with each other and understanding, the game is going to be played on that left-hand side. And having Di Maria in the game as well, on the squad, on the pitch, is going to cause the Germans to look left and right. There's going to be a lot of gaps opening up all over the pitch. It's going to be a very open game, and it can go in any direction.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think so. When you watch Leipzig's approach, they have the double pivot of Campbell and Leimer, and they drop very deep to kind of pick up the ball. One of the key things, of course, despite the fact that you have to play versus huge players like Neymar and Mbappe, and we saw, for example, Red Bull struggle briefly versus Felix when he was subbed on. Upamecano had a fantastic game, and I think he is sort of that leader at the back. What he does as the sort of central center back is drop into like a DM position sometimes, and he provides Red Bull with verticality of passing from the back, and that really helps get the ball quickly and fastly to the midfielders who can overload PSG. And I kind of worry that Gueye and Marquinhos might not be so good at ball retention. And while they are a very solid defensive setup, I think Red Bull could blitz them with the five midfielders that they have. And the only thing I would fear, of course, is that as much as Nagelsmann made a point to say that not having Werner is a good thing, I do wonder this Red Bull side needs to score. And when Sabitzer is your top scorer effectively remaining, that's a worry for me. And I think that's one of their weaknesses.
Definitely, there is a gap in that midfield. They can't retain the ball as well as they would hope to, and missing Verratti is going to be a big cause of concern. But personally, Fran, what do you think is going to happen at the end of this game? Who do you think is going to win?
Ultimately, I think it's going to be a game that shows best players in the world will be able to make the difference. And I think Mbappe and Neymar will lead the line for Paris, and Paris will win 3-2.
Personally, for me, I feel that Neymar, after his horrendous finishing in the last game, is going to be very pumped up for this. They've got a really clear route to the final. With no disrespect to Leipzig, but I feel he's going to take this chance, and we will see a 3-1 win for PSG.